Hello again. This is John Monson with Rural Ruckus Radio, and I'm really excited today because we have a special guest with us. One of our sponsors, the Community Economic Development Associates, is with us today, and we have James Hanke, a good friend and somebody that I've known for a long time, and he really has been sort of an advisor and sort of a mentor. The issue here today is we have a Packer fan with us, and James, I'm going to go slow as a result. James, I'm going to say it real slow for you, and I'm just going to hope that you keep up along the way. But anyways, as a Viking fan here, we're going to just move right through things ultimately, and you just see if you can stick with me, all right?
Sure. Yeah.
Good to see you, James.
It is wonderful to see you as well, John.
Right. Yeah. You bet. Great to have you here.
Yeah.
Well, James, I'm excited to get you introduced and talk about it, but CEDA has really been an organization that I've gotten to know over the years, and what I'm really impressed about is that they have done some things in communities that nobody else does anywhere, and that's why it's so special to have you as a sponsor, but also to have you here to share some of the unique insights that you have and some of the unique work that you do. And so I want to do a couple of sessions with you, one today to get a high level about the Community Economic Development Associates, CEDA, in these communities, learn a little bit more about how they're able to do the great work that they do, talk a little bit about the team, some of the communities, and then next start digging in a little deeper. There's some really cool additional things that you do, programs actually that you have. We want to talk about that too. But James, please introduce yourself. Talk a little bit about yourself, what you're so good at doing.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Really do appreciate the opportunity to come in and talk with you about this. So CEDA, Community and Economic Development Associates, simply put, what we do is work with rural communities about, making things happen, focusing on their community, their economic development work, putting them in a position where they have the ability to be quite a bit more proactive about their economic development, their community development aspirations. The primary way that we do that is we have a team of about 50 highly qualified, very professional staff that work in economic development. And we basically work with communities. They contract with us, and we put those people in a position where they're working fractionally in rural communities on a part-time basis within those communities to help them work through their community and economic development work. Too often what we end up seeing in rural communities is that leadership within the community, it tends to be a city administrator, a village administrator over in Wisconsin, sometimes a city clerk. I've even seen situations where it's a darn police chief, but often it's folks that are wearing so many different hats. And really, when you look at the hierarchy of needs and the prioritization that goes into what they need to do on a daily basis, economic development is important, but it doesn't rise up to the occasion where it's a sustained effort that's delivering quality results in the community. And that's where CEDA, over the course of the last 40 years, has been incredibly successful in terms of working with those rural communities, helping them make a difference and helping them do the things that are really critical for them as a community.
Yeah, and what I've learned about CEDA over the years is that you are, well, frankly, you're affordable for rural communities, and what you really focus on is the real heart of at least my passion and the passion of this show and its listeners, and that is small communities.
Right.
That's where you really focus. What are the size communities that you're typically in?
Communities under 8,000 in size is generally where we target, and if you really look at where, I think we make the most impact, it would probably be communities in that, 1,500 to 5,000 in population range. You get much bigger than that, and realistically, those communities have a critical mass that allows them to hire somebody on a full-time basis. Yeah. You get a little bit smaller than that, and there are definitely communities that we work with that are in the hundreds in population. But there tends to be a little bit less of a critical mass within the community to really foster good community economic growth. So it's really, I think for us that sweet spot is somewhere between about 1,250 in population all the way up to that 6,000, 7,000 in population range.
Yeah, and that's what makes you so cool in my mind, is nobody thinks about those communities, frankly. And that's your lifeblood. Yeah. That's your passion. That's where your team excels.
Yes.
And that's where these communities have the greatest need, is in these small towns that they don't have the critical mass. And we know that in small towns, oftentimes they'll compete with one another when instead of working together. And your team really brings something completely different and more powerful. Yeah. And that is that you have sort of this regional center of experts that can work together, meet together, talk about things in these rural communities. That's part of the real power. And that's why I was so excited that you became a sponsor, is because we're interested in highlighting something different, something uncommon, something that really sticks out in a different way. And you really represent the very best of it. Tell us a little bit more about some of the ways in which you work in these communities. Are there any stories that really stand out in your mind?
Yeah, there are. I mean, a good example very recently, we've been working in Spring Grove for a number of years, southeastern Minnesota, and, recently drove a $500,000 grant into the community for a community facility. Wow. We work with a lot of communities on tackling some of the bigger issues that are going on, within their communities. And, not uncommonly, there are a lot of themes that are common, that are consistent amongst what, communities are concerned about and what they need. Unsurprisingly, it's things like daycare, it's housing, it's workforce. These days it's also been adequate provisions for electric infrastructure and some of the growth that's coming as a result of that. And so, we have individuals within our organization, who do have a higher level of expertise in some of those areas than, your average person. And, one of the benefits of what we do is that expertise can lend itself across, our team and the folks that we're working with. And we can then deliver some of those solutions to communities that, but for working with us, very likely would not be able to find the solutions that they're looking for.
Yeah. How do you work in these communities in a way to really create the accountability? So you've got to perform.
Sure. Yeah.
What happens if you bring in somebody who doesn't perform? What happens in these communities? What's the accountability there for you?
So, every community that we contract with, we sit down with them at the beginning and talk with them about what their needs are. And we really start taking a look at, what their needs are in relation to, what our staff is going to be able to do for them based on the amount of time that they're interested in purchasing. Yeah. And, for instance, a 1 day a week contract is, about $30,000. So, it's relatively inexpensive and, pretty manageable. And, you start moving kind of upward from there. And, so we sit down, we have a good understanding of what those communities are looking for. We identify the right staff person with capacity within our organization to go ahead and be placed within that community. Yeah. And then once we've made that match, the primary accountability measure is, no different than anything else a local unit of government does. It's accountable and responsible to somebody, right? And in this instance, in Minnesota, it's primarily economic development authorities. Those are local bodies that are a part of a local unit of government. We basically are working with that local, economic development authority to, kind of articulate the work plan and then put that plan into action and provide that reporting mechanism to them on a, monthly basis through those economic development authority meetings.
So if you don't perform, or they run out of money, how much notice do they give you before you say, yeah, you're out?
Yeah. So our CEO, Ron, will say that our contracts are very friendly to our communities. Some might argue they might be a little too friendly to our communities because basically a community can give us a call and say, hey, it's either not working for us or financially we're not in a position where we're able to continue. They can give us a 30-day out and we leave, It doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it's generally as a result of, financial needs that a community is experiencing that are just pushing it in a little bit of a direction. And oftentimes those communities come back and visit us a few years down the road and say, hey, we'd really like to bring you back.
Right.
The cost benefit of what we provide in terms of added value to tax base, improving the quality of the business community within a downtown and a rural community, grant dollars that we're bringing into the community, oftentimes, more than pay for the investment that they're making in us.
Yeah. It generally, the dollars you bring into the rural communities you serve dwarfs your overall budget every year.
Yeah.
So the dollar for dollar payback is what's exponential, frankly.
Right.
But the reason that I asked you that question on the accountability, 30-day out.
Sure.
There's no other organization that can say anything like that.
No.
The cost is so low. That accountability, it is incredibly community friendly.
Yeah.
That's so different in the marketplace that you serve, and it makes you so affordable and so necessary in those communities. I saw it firsthand. I saw the work that you did in these communities throughout your team and the growth of your organization. What does it look like right now?
It's been quite healthy.
Yeah.
We've been having a lot of fun on the growth side, and that's growth in Minnesota. It's some healthy growth over in Wisconsin, where we've only been for a little under 2 years now, sitting with 6 contracts, 4 staff people over there, and continuing that growth going forward. One of the things that really attracted me to CEDA, and one of the things that I've really appreciated about the organization, is I've been in economic development for a few minutes, hence the gray hair.
Yeah.
And, the reality is that economic development is a long-term endeavor. It requires a sustained approach to, reaching an end goal of economic prosperity for your community. And, what attracts me most about CEDA's business model is that ability to meet communities, rural communities, where they're at, but give them that ability to sustain their community and economic development over time. Yep. It's unlike any other model in that most of the work that I've seen historically in rural communities is consultancy based, where you have very smart, very capable, very well-intentioned folks that are coming in, they're providing a solution to a particular problem at that particular moment, but there's no sustainable endeavor around their community and economic development. And as the winds change, as as issues kind of come and go, our team has the ability to provide that proactive approach for the community. And really, I think it's paid a lot of dividends for the folks that are with us.
Yeah. Next show, we're going to get into more depth of some of the things that you do specifically. And I'd love, if we had more time, I'd love to talk more about Vikings, Packers, but we're out of time. We know how that history's gone.
Yeah, we do. We definitely know how that history's gone.
Exactly. So we have no more time.
Yeah,
James,
I would absolutely.
I'm sure you'd like to talk about it all day long. It's to your benefit.
Understood.
Anyways,
we won't kick anything out of the park.
I'm sure you won't. Anyways, great to have you here, and we'll have you back again next time. And thank you so much, James. I really appreciate it. This is John Monson, James Hanke from the Community Economic Development Associates, and John Monson with Rural Ruckus Radio.